And also, what I told some kid, I said, look, I've been taking martial arts for more than 50 years, and I'm going to knock your fool self out if you open your mouth and say something familiar again. I am either Mr. Attorney, lawyer, doctor, or judge to you. Now, I've paid my dues, you haven't. And I don't give a doggone, and I use a little bit firmer language, I don't give a damn about whether your generation thinks that everybody is everybody else's peer when it comes to what you've done when you ain't done nothing. So use the title with respect, and maybe one day you might earn it or earn one. You know?
That's why I told you.
I'm rewinding your message, preparing it for playback.
This is Judge
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
Judge, why do you think they're targeting you then? What's the big deal? Why are you the...
Because I'm a man.
They
have a target against any male role models that act like me.
So y'all done. Put some respect on it. 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 Stop playing with my fucking name. My name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
Your mic is live.
Hi, this is Big Meech from Dishing Tea with Big Meech. How are you, Valerie?
Oh,
you and I?
Right.
Yes. How are you, girl? I've been trying to get a hold of you, but we'll talk in a minute.
You?
I am everything, and everything is me. I'm coming in on the. I'm coming in on the tail end of this. Pastor John hit me up. He said, "Get in on this," and I'm coming because I have a couple of things. With the school thing, it's something that you said that spoke to me. Now, let me preface this by saying I'm a member of the LGBT community, so I may hit something that may come from a different era.
Travels around the internet, you may have bumped into the term toxic masculinity. It usually shows up in connection with particularly abusive male behavior, so things like harassment, homophobia, sexism, or violent outbursts. But what does it really mean? Well, let's find out.
Yeah. So would this fall under toxic masculinity? What does it fall under?
No. What it falls under is this is not toxic masculinity. There's no such thing. Everything they call toxic masculinity is the absence of masculinity. Okay? What they call bad driving is actually not being able to drive for the most part. Bad driving is when somebody who can drive operates the vehicle in an irresponsible or reckless fashion. What most of these problems on the roads are today is the people don't know how to drive well. They can't. That's why you've got all these little bitty entry-level cars with radar, so they stop for the fool that's supposed to be driving the damn thing, but who can't. See, we're in an era where instead of promoting excellence, we dummy everything down to deal with the incompetent or to accommodate the incompetent.
Let me say this, and see, respectfully, I understand where the judge is going, and his campaign on wanting to preserve masculinity. I disagree with him wholeheartedly, and I have said some very choice words about some of his actions and things that I strongly disagreed with because the language behind it has pissed me off.
So he said you specifically pissed him off. Like, I was trying to figure, had he had a conversation with you prior?
No, we've never talked. But I think our good Junior has been turning him on to listening to us to set this up. You know how he likes to promote stuff. He's been calling me, by the way, the last 2 days and leaving multiple texts.
Right. Now, Meech, I just want to ask you, do you think that there is a gay agenda? Just me to you.
I'm going to say this. At one point in time, I used to deny that wholeheartedly because I've always said as a black gay man, honey, I don't have the agenda, so I don't know what the hell y'all talking about. But here is what has happened, and I'm going to be one who say this, and I say this all the time. My white counterparts, Caucasian LGBT folks, are the ones who get all of the coin, They get all of the prestige. They're the ones who are the face of what is called the gay movement and carrying on, or the human rights movement. And they're the ones who incite a lot of what is going on. Now, Black LGBT and people of color, there's Hispanics and Asians and carrying on, we get included in that because we're LGBT. But when it comes down to the numbers, when it comes down to the finances, when it comes down to the programming, we, just like everything else when it deals with racism, it doesn't trickle down to us. So then what happens, we have now got into a culture where, because two white lesbians got mad at the cake baker for not wanting to bake a cake for them for their wedding, and they took that all the way to the courts and got sued and this, that, and the other, people could no longer have an opinion anymore. Everything now has become, oh, that's hate speech. That's hate speech. And because of that, we have now gotten into this world to where now gay or LGBT has become synonymous with bullying, in my opinion, because it feels as though my community is bullying everybody else to say, you know, you got to accept us, you got to accept us. But it's awfully ironic that the one organization that says celebrate diversity is not diverse in its fighting, because my community as a whole has not championed women's rights unless they're lesbian. They have not championed Black Lives Matter, because at any time we deal with shooting and carrying on that's going on across the country, the LGBT movement has not been there in the numbers. The blacks have, Black LGBT, we've been out there, but us as a whole to say we are an LGBT community, the way that we know it, the way how society has deemed it, the way how society goes and attack us, the way how society says it's your agenda, those people have not come to the forefront and to the table. So this is where our disparity is. I get tired of us as blacks because I'm tired of the power to the people children who want to sit down there and say, oh, the black man, is the masculine image is being tarnished because the LGBT. No, stop that. We need to come together because I'm on the front, got to fight for me just like I'm fighting for you. But you ain't fighting for me because you say I'm supposed to fight for you, and how come I'm not at the table? And we get all about the nuances, the small little nuances that make us different, and you don't see the bigger picture. And then we come into a whole particular fight. So is there a gay agenda? Yes, there is, and I'm willing to accept that because of our white counterparts have made it so. At the beginning, it wasn't, but we now have this political divide to where now it's become a race thing, it's become a class thing, it's become a color thing. And because of that, black LGBT like me, we fighting all over the place because I got to fight the white LGBT children, I got to fight the black straight children, I got to fight the evangelicals who say I'm a burn in hell and all that kind of jazz because I'm trying to be me. And I'm sorry, at 49 years old, I'm still on the forefront fighting. And I will be glad.
Y'all finished or y'all done? Put some respect on it. 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 Stop playing with my fucking name. Respect my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. I just had an idea. Judge Brown takes on a heterophobe.
A what?
A heterophobe, like they call homophobe.
A heterophobe.
He's a heterophobe.
Oh.
Yeah. Heterophobic.
Is that a word?
They call it homophobic, but their problem is they're really heterophobic. They have a heterophobia. They're scared of straight people. That's what's really going on. And like I said, the Nazi propaganda engine said when you are doing something, attack your opponent and accuse them of doing it. They are guilty of heterophobia. They call our response to an attack on what we do is homophobic. All we're doing is a response. We are being reactive, not proactive. That's the type.
That sounds like a T-shirt. That sounds like a
Well,
T-shirt.
yeah, it is. But you see, it's all in the way you think of it. So I'm good about coming up with novel ways of thinking about something. And it can give you insight into what's really going on. If it's like a good stand-up comedian. He can give you a lot of insight, positive insight into human nature because of the way he does what? he presents it. So he just makes it funny, or he takes a few things that most of the time people don't pay attention to, and it produces insight, which makes you understand what the subject is better. Like Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was gay, but I mean, he made fun of it, and he gave a lot of insight into it. But a lot of the characters Richard Pryor created, you know, you could say, I know that guy.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, I got the title then. I'm going to put that up. And then put that out sometime tomorrow or, you know, before the show. Tomorrow
we
late
take
or
on
Friday
heterophobia.
Morning. Yeah.
Those who are scared of straight people.
Y'all finished or y'all done? Put some respect on it. 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 I am delivered!
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Stay tuned. More audio to come.
Tell me how to be as a functional black gay man. I knew what it was to be a functional black man, but a black straight man can't tell me about me as a gay man. So who do I run to? There are no options there. So when the options started to become available, did you want to sit down there and say, oh, you're trying to teach this? No, that's not what this is. And it becomes a whole political thing versus what this is. And nobody wants to sit down and say, okay, let's come to the table and draw up the curriculum so I know what's going on. Parents have not sat down to say, let's look at this and see what this is so I can make sure that you're not trying to force nothing down me. Whatever. Let me see what this is. Nobody investigated. They just assumed they knew what the hell it was. And on those assumptions came all this other dastardly stuff that we have, and then we got this great big divide. No one wants to sit down and educate themselves about what the hell is going on, and then they want to bitch, moan, and complain because everything starts to blow up.
Part 1.